Today we're going to be looking at customary weights with the same goal of converting measurements within a single system of measurement, either customary or metric, from a larger to a smaller unit. And we're going to be focused on ounces and pounds. We're going to start by looking at this key to help us understand the difference between an ounce and a pound. We can see that it tells us an ounce is about the size of one slice of bread. So think about how light one piece of bread is. But then it also tells us that a pound is about the weight of one can of vegetables. So think about going to the grocery store and getting that one can of vegetables. That's going to be heavier than that one piece of bread. So when I'm looking at this one right here, I am trying to figure out the weight of this dresser. So I'm looking at my answer choices. I have 150 pounds, 30 pounds, 10 ounces, and then 3,000 ounces. Well, here's what I know. Ounces are about one piece of bread. So if it were 10 ounces, that would only be about 10 pieces of bread, which would not be heavy enough. So I'm going to cross that out. Also, 3,000 ounces, that is going to be about 3,000 slices of bread. That's kind of hard to visualize. The other way we can look at this is to ask ourselves, is ounces the best unit to measure something that's heavy? And it is not. So that would go away. That leaves me with 150 pounds, and that leaves me with 30 pounds. So now we have to choose the best unit of measure. The way that I would think about this is to think about how heavy you are, or how much you weigh when you go to the doctor, and then think about whether you would weigh more than a dresser or less than a dresser. So probably you would weigh less than the dresser, so that means the dresser would be 150 pounds. What about this one right here, the big screen TV? What would make the most sense right here? 40 pounds would be the best answer that we have. Again, ounces is not the unit that we want to use when we're measuring something heavy, so that can go away. 2,000 pounds, you don't have to know this, but 2,000 pounds is equal to 1 ton. We measure cars in tons, so that is how heavy a ton is a car. So 40 pounds would be the best for a TV. The last one, we have a pen. This one, if we look, we have 16 ounces, 10 pounds, 0.2 ounces, and 18 ounces. Okay? So what we have to do is we first have to figure out, is there one that we can get rid of? That is right. 10 pounds we could get rid of. Then what we have to do is we have to look at our options here. So we have 16 ounces, 0.2 ounces, or 18 ounces. So what I have to think about is, this pen right here, is it going to weigh 16 slices of bread? Is it going to weigh 0.2 ounces of bread? That means, is it smaller than one piece of bread? Or is it going to weigh 18 slices of bread? Usually pens are very light, which means the best option would be 0.2 ounces. Another thing that we have to be able to do is we have to be able to measure using a scale. So if we look here, we have two scales. We're going to start by looking at this scale. What we are doing is first looking at our unit, which is OZ, which stands for ounces, and then we are looking at the arrow. The arrow is pointing right here, but I notice there is not a number right there. So I can infer that the number 11 is here because 10, 11, 12. So that means this box right here weighs 11 ounces. So how much would this box right here weigh? That is correct. It would weigh 13 ounces. We know this because we can see we're dealing with ounces, and then we can see that it goes all the way here, and I can infer 12, 13, 14. Now, the main part of our goal is to be able to convert customary units of measure from a larger unit to a smaller unit. Well, pounds are heavier than ounces, so we're going from a larger unit to a smaller unit. We also have to remember over here that 1 pound is equivalent to 16 ounces. That means it takes about 16 slices of bread to make 1 pound. Now, if we look at this, we have 4 pounds and we are going to figure out the ounces. Whenever we go from a larger unit to a smaller unit, that tells me we have to multiply. So I'm going to take 4 from my 4 pounds and I'm going to multiply it by 16. So what I can do is I can split this up into smaller pieces, 10 and 6, and multiply each one by 4. I know that 10 times 4 would be 40, and I know 6 times 4 would be 24. If I add these together, that would give me 4 and 6. That means that 4 pounds is equivalent to 64 ounces. Okay? So what about 6 pounds? How many ounces would 6 pounds equal? That means we're going to do 6 times 16. Why don't you pause the video for just a second to see if you can solve this. Alright, so for me, what I would like to do is to break this apart. Again, I'm going to break my 16 up into 10 and 6. I'm going to do 10 times 6, which I know is 60, and then 6 times 6, which I know is 36. If I add these numbers together, this would give me 6 and 9 to make 96 ounces. Alright, we have one more problem. So we have 16 pounds equals how many ounces? Remember that we know that in 1 pound there are 16 ounces. So what this question is asking me to do is a little bit trickier. They're asking me to do 16 pounds, and to figure out how many ounces that is, I'm going to have to multiply by 16. So I would probably use an area model to solve this. So I'm going to set up my area models similar to this, and I know that 10 and 6 to make 16, and then 10 and 6 to make 16. Again, pause the video and see if you can solve this. The answer that you should have gotten would be 256 ounces. Now let's look at where we got that from. So down here, we're going to start in this box, which means 10 times 10, which would be 100. In this box right here, we're doing 10 times 6, which would be 60. In this box right here, we are doing 10 times 6 again, which would be 60. And then finally, in this box right here, we're doing 6 times 6, which is 36. I'm going to start by taking these two, which would make 136. And then I'm going to take these two, which would make 120, and add them together. 6 and 0 make 6, 3 and 2 make 5, 1 and 1 makes 2, to make 256.